I do want to talk about what Maxey. This is going to be the last thing because I know that this is going to be a conversation we have for a while. But Maxley said after the game, he talks to a lot of people. He talks to Danny Green, he talks to Matisse Thybulle, and he talks to Ben Simmons. He says he talks to them all the time, and that was the
Yeah.
quote. You had this thing happen on Twitter. You talked to a lot of people about it. Um, After reports saying that Ben has had zero contact with the Sixers for a while, and although that report came from Kendrick Perkins, who I don't believe at all.
Hmm.
Um, just what do you make of this whole situation? And we both still stand pretty firmly where we are. I just want
Hmm.
to hear your take on the situation as a whole. Just the thing that people have been saying, he's not talking to them, he's being a diva, he will hold out, all that stuff. Whereas I think, what do you think about that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, so first off, there's a lot going on with all this, and it's just not a good situation all around. And as far as the holdout talk, so Perkins was the guy who reported the holdout thing. That I don't trust. Like, it's way easier to hypothetically say that than to actually not get your check sent to you and not get those millions of dollars sent your way. I don't see it being that bad. That being said, I definitely think it's a pretty toxic situation between the Sixers and Simmons at this point, and it's pretty clear why. Like, I mean, like, it's no secret that if there's an offer that's pleases the Sixer, like, he's out of here, and as it should be at this point. And I think as far as the Maxi thing, it was definitely kind of a slipped in there thing. And I do buy into there's enough like smoke that I believe there's fire when it comes to just the Simmons kind of isolating himself and not talking to guys. Maxi has the same agent and trainer as Simmons, so I think he out of anybody is the more likely to kind of cross paths and that kind of thing. And Maxi definitely didn't kind of. It wasn't a huge like sticking up for Ben moment. Like, it was just kind of like a slipped in there thing. Like, he was talking about the question originally started. It was specifically like that. It was Kai Carlin asking the question, and he asked about the growth in defense, like what guys you've kind of picked up things from, and he mentioned Matisse, Ben, and Danny Green as the guys. And then Carlin followed up and said, like, have you kept in touch with these guys these offseason with that? And he said, yeah, I just like texted Matisse to congratulate him about the Olympics. Ben, I talked to all the time. And Danny Green, like, talked to before this. And then there wasn't really time for like more of a follow up on that. So I do believe that kind of Maxi is a guy that kind of might not be on the same playing field as the rest of the Sixers because of kind of the off court connections with that. But as far as a whole, I still think it's a situation that like is in the best interest of anyone if Simmons does find a new team next year and there is a trade that goes down.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're kind of on different sides of the fence here. And again, I realize, I understand the frustrations. I realize and understand the want for him to be gone. And it seems that everyone's kind of standing firm. If it's not for one man that lives across the country, then it's probably for no one. And they're just going to keep, they're just going to do what they have to do going forward. If it's not Dame, and I feel like it's been pretty clear at this point. If it's not Dame, it's nobody. So I don't know. It is like we haven't heard anything about Dame being available. He just got back from Tokyo, obviously, so there could be some more things happen over the coming days and coming weeks. But I mean, Daryl Morey posted a really not so cryptic after they re-signed Danny Green. He kind of just posted the picture of the what is it, total plus minus of the season,
Yeah.
and that the Sixers starting five led the league. And take that for what you will, but coming from the president of basketball operations, like, after re-signing and confirming that you have those same five guys on contract for at least the next two seasons, don't you think that kind of means, that's it?
I mean, so I disagree with you in that I still think there's very little chance Simmons starts the year on the Sixers, and I think there's zero chance he's on the team past the deadline. And I think, like, as much as like for sure, like, I think that was way more a compliment to this is why we're bringing Danny than Ben. And now, granted, Ben's for sure a significant part of that stat, and obviously ran the whole offense and is that show. But I think Dame is obviously the number one target, and it's just so perfect how the fit is with him and Embiid with that. And I definitely think like there will be no decision made until Dame obviously just got back from the Olympics. There's going to be some tough conversations that go down between him and the front office within the next couple weeks. And I think like sit back and let that develop before any move is made. But I think the ultimate move here is finding a legitimate second superstar to pair it with Embiid and a guy that complements him in a game that Simmons simply doesn't. And a move right now would be a move that whatever brings you closer to this. And I don't think a move right now is for Malcolm Brogdon and a first round pick. I don't think that's the trade, but I do think like when you hear about the Spurs deal that was reportedly asked by Morey that it was the 4 first round picks and pick swaps, like that's the type of deal I could see happening, because then that it's way easier to like find a superstar, that an unhappy star or a team looking to rebuild with multiple picks and multiple young guys. And when we're talking about all these guys that we love from the summer league, like guys like Isaiah Joe, even Maxey, even Matisse are guys that can be like packaged into this, and you have to, because the time is still now, and like you have to do that. As much as I love these guys, and like I still think that's the case. I can't see. There's just I'm at the point where like we've now tried this with many different supporting casts, and this the cast we have right now is to me is it's not the best group that we've ran it back with, and this isn't our best chance to win. And teams in the East have gotten significantly better in ways that we just haven't this offseason and can't, based on the assets we have. And Simmons is that one trade chip that we can do that, to kind of try to increase the overall like capacity of this team. And it's hard because it's like, if you do mess up this trade, like it's all over, and that like you don't have another chance. Like if you trade him for the wrong guy here, which is why I think this will draw out for a while still, like the process ends and there's no chance of the title, because Embiid has proved to be the legitimate superstar that we hope to be, but just the supporting cast around him is what needs to be adjusted, and Simmons is not the guy to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna go all my way to like to defend him, because there's times like I agree with you in a lot of ways. I do agree with you. That, and I think it's strange, it's disappointing, it's ugly. Definitely. It's gotten this far, but the only thing that I find like a little bit of just calmness in is like really from credible sources, from people really close. Like there hasn't been that many things that have like, there's a ton of smoke, right? Like you said, like there is clearly something is going on, it seems, but from the first report was, oh, Ben hasn't been in contact with them, and then the Sixers are like, we talked to him on his birthday, and then weeks later is like, well, they haven't talked to him again, and then literally the day after, Maxey says he's talking to them. Like it seems like a lot of reaching, and to be fair, this is the biggest story of the offseason, whether Dame wants out or not. On top of Portland having just like the shittiest offseason of all time after Dame's like, you need to upgrade this roster, and they get him Cody Zeller and Tony Snell. Like that's what they're working against right now. And like Dame is right. Dame is there. And he hasn't made any significant requests yet. And I think really until that happens, I like genuinely, unless Dame says I'm out, until that day, I won't be worried about a trade for Ben Simmons, honestly.
And I do sit right now, like hand on my heart, I do believe Dame Lillard will be a Sixer next year, and that is my like genuine prediction. And again, I don't know if this is necessarily like the before the season starts or during, but I just think Dame understands where he's at. And like the Trailblazers and Sixers, I see very similar spots as franchises, and just like good teams, talented, but struggling to take that like extra leap. And where the Trailblazers have kind of tapped them, kind of pin themselves in a corner, is like, if I'm Daryl Morey right now, a trade that was talked about a ton prior to all the Dame news was a CJ McCollum for like a CJ McCollum and stuff for Simmons, or maybe a Tobias for CJ trade. And just like if I'm Morey, why would I do that when I'm now decreasing my chances at getting the legitimate superstar that you guys have? And like, what team wants to help them out in a way that would keep Dame there when they want a chance at Dame? And like I just can't see. To me, it doesn't make sense. Like, there's no team that is out. That CJ McCollum is not the missing piece on any franchise in the way that like Dame Lillard is, and I believe that Dame is here. And I do genuinely believe the Sixers are in the best chance out of any team in the league to land him if he is truly available. And just standing up at the Olympics, which first off, like I guess not really the spot for it, but kind of things go down when they go down, and saying like, we're not just like a coach away. Like when you look at a roster, you can't tell me like running it back and it's difference. And then Cody Zeller and Tony Snell are your two key addition. And I think Ben McLemore, they got too. Another guy that Like, come on now. Like Dame can't sit there and be like, like now I'm good. Like he's not sitting there and going
Yeah,
like Ben McLemore is what we needed. Like now we're good, you know? And so
yeah,
like to me, like if they get a couple games into the season and like they look like the Trailblazers, which they are going to look like because that's who they have on the roster, and then the most part they're going to be exactly the same. Like I can't see Dame just saying like I'm cool with this, and I do think it's going to get more and more presence. And I also think like as much as the Simmons stuff is all in the media, and some of this is a criticism toward like Philly being the like the ringer that it is versus not necessarily on Simmons, but Simmons is so much in the public eye in this situation, and because it's a bigger story and more clear. But like I think Dame's conversations are happening way more behind closed doors, and I do think there's some serious meetings and conversations that like we don't know what the end of, but I do think like they're happening and there are things moving. So I think this is a story that's going to draw out for a while, but I do think there's something there to it.
yeah. And I mean, maybe there is. It's hard to tell. It's
For
strange
sure.
to
Yeah.
me as someone that like I honestly am trying to look at it objectively, and I see a lot of the signs pointing to Ben being not on the Sixers next year. But then, like, when you break it down to like, I've learned as a fan just of the NBA in general to never trust anything that's not coming from a really credible source. And like, there's been report after report that's not like definite. There's no Woj saying Ben Simmons has not like or has been in contact with the Sixers. Ben Simmons has like is definitely going to be a Sixer next year. Like there hasn't been anything like that, obviously, but there really also hasn't been like a Woj or a Shams or those people. And like even like on the jump, if you want, like Kendrick Perkins goes one way, Ramona Shelburne goes the exact opposite and says like the Sixers actually would prefer to keep Ben Simmons this year. And like honestly, unless we see a James Harden esque move by Damian Lillard going into next year and just like 8, 12, 15 games, however many games it was into the year, and Harden was like, I'm out. Honestly, I feel like unless a situation arises like that, and like you said, it could be happening. That could be something that's going on in Portland right now that we don't see. Um, but again, until I see that stuff, I think genuinely that they're ready to run this team back, and I don't I don't have a problem with that. I think that they are better than what their playoff performance was last year, and I'm okay with that.
I see. I do have a serious problem with that because the last year was the window, and last year was probably the most winnable championship that we've seen in years. And just like when we
People
think
said
about
that about the Raptors, though. People said that about the Raptors, and that was 3 years.
and
Four years,
we were a better team then than we were last year. I think so.
maybe.
Do you think last year's lineup was better than the Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, Simmons, Embiid, and JJ Redick?
No, oh, I guess not in terms of pure talent. No,
Okay, because so we've
that team was ridiculous, but they were only together for like from February on,
like 6 months,
and
right? For
yeah,
sure.
and it was like it was just thrown together. There was like clearly some like some issues with Brett Brown and whoever it was, and the locker room. There was something going on, or maybe that just
For sure.
I don't know. I would have loved to run that team back.
So
Just
the Nets,
run that directly back.
I agree, and we tried, but Jimmy Buckets was not on board. So and that again, shout out to him for just getting paid in South Beach. But to touch on that, like the Heat, significantly better. The Heat are significantly better this year than they are last year, and granted, I don't think they're championship caliber, but I don't think the Sixers are either. I think we're in that category of cut. Like the Brooklyn Nets are significantly better than we are. Their big three
But they were
is
last year. They were last year too.
and they were hurt, so that was our opportunity. And like you can't bank on that. And like it's Embiid, and like we've seen the Ben Simmons story in the playoffs for several years now, and you can hide his limitations in the regular season because they are there. Like there's no doubt about it, and just like the unwillingness to just shoot and develop and do the most fun part of basketball, like it just blows my mind. And like that's never changing. Like to me, there's no more option. I don't care how many threes he chucks up with Rajon Rondo in an empty gym, and like he is who he is at this point, and don't get me wrong, that's still a very good player, and that's what makes this so difficult is you can't ship him away for like nothing. But I think the Sixers are doing everything in their power, and Simmons has no leverage in the situation whatsoever. He for sure wants out of there because if you're him, why would you want to be that? You're like the laughing stock of the NBA. You were all the memes, you were all everything once they were knocked out. The pass to Matisse, the just refusing, the free throw lines, the being so scared to be there, just everything that comes with it, and then. Like I'm sure he would much rather be in like that. Just who he seems to be as like a guy is much more of like a low key, wants no pressure, wants like a away from the spotlight kind of like guy, and that's just not where how Philadelphia is ever going to be. And just
But then people say he wants to go to LA, and like that's like as far away from being away from the spotlight as possible. Like the thing, honestly, like the biggest problem I have with all of this is just how villainized he's become as a human being. Like there is no regard for who Ben Simmons is as a human being or what he is as a player. It is he's the worst, and then there's tiers to that. There's like the people that are like, okay, take it easy on him, but he's still the worst. And then there's like he just gets worse from there. And it's just so disappointing to me. Like I know it's frustrating. I'm just as frustrated. Like I get it. I'm frustrated as hell. I am. And like as a guy that's been like we've been on his coattails. This has been him since we were, seniors in high school. Like this is what we wanted. We wanted Ben to be Ben, like the flashes that we've seen. I just still like he works he works out at home. He lives in Los Angeles. A lot of people do this. Like people are just like had the blinders on. Ben Simmons sucks, and otherwise like just whatever you can take to just keep piling that on is what people will do. And it's shitty and it's like annoying, and it causes people to misread situations and then make shit up. Like that's why you see so many fake reports. If we had just straightforward reporting, people actually reporting things that were happening, nobody would be in question right now, and this whole thing wouldn't be happening, and like there wouldn't be this massive villainization of who Ben Simmons is. But that's what happens, and it's really frustrating for me as a fan of him and a fan of the sport to just see his character ripped down because of poor play in a playoff series. You shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
personally,
and
what I think.
Yeah, and I agree with you with all the personal stuff and just as a person and his character and like I mean I have no hate in my heart for him as a person, as a human being, any of that.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't think the Sixers can win a championship with Ben Simmons on this roster, and I think that like his holes are too gaping come playoff time and just do not gel along Joel Embiid in the way that the Sixers need them to, and he doesn't complement the game in the way that like that must happen for this to work and for a championship to happen here. And to me, like the writing is on the wall that we've tried to run this back with so many different groups and complementing players, and like you can't ask for better surrounding shooting than Seth Curry, who Seth Curry was our second best player in the playoffs, which as great as that is for Seth, that's a problem when you look at Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, who are the other two big time.
I think Tobias is getting a little bit of is definitely getting a break.
He played better than Ben in the playoffs.
Yeah, but he's getting paid the same amount, and nobody gives a shit
more. But
nobody cares.
I mean, but here's my thing: is just how obvious it is with Simmons. Is like the Sixers can't say we're trading Ben. Ben has no leverage for wanting out just because of where he is. The Sixers also can't sit and say we're going to trade Ben Simmons because like they can't just shoot the value in the foot. Like I for sure think that's exactly what's going on. Is Morey's going to do everything in his power to get a deal that benefits them, but he can't openly say that because what if he is back next year? Like the situation already sucks. It's already going to be shitty when he gets here if he does play and like that. And like I think it's gotten worse and worse just based on like everybody knows like this is not a long-term deal anymore. Like Simmons, the writing's on the wall for his time in Philadelphia. I think he knows that. Everybody knows that. It's just sitting back and waiting for what deal benefits the Sixers most. And like, frankly, I don't care if we send Simmons to LA, to Miami, to Toronto, to the Shanghai Sharks or whoever else wants on, and whatever deal we can get. Like, I mean, again, nothing against his character, but for me, just like we've ran this back before and we know it doesn't work, and just doing it any more times like is a mistake to me.
Yeah, I mean, again, I understand the frustration. I'm loyal to a fault. Maybe I'm blinded by the light, but I'm not going to give up on a guy that just turned 25 like 2 weeks ago. I'm just not there yet. I realize the situation, but like you see guys grow. It takes guys time. He was just voted as the best defender in the league. I think that's an underrated portion of basketball. And I think that a lot of things around him failed him. I think the Sixers, not the Sixers, I guess just Doc Rivers to me, who's just, again, I won't forgive for that entire playoff series. Regardless of how Simmons played, they still win that series if he doesn't, have the worst coaching playoff series I think of all time. And I genuinely mean that. I think Doc was the biggest issue with that playoff run. And then on top of that, Ben and Tobias did not play well. So a lot of factors.